Shawshank Redemption, first requested to me by the Diamond X, written and directed by Frank Darabont, and based on the 1982 novella from Stephen King, is a 1994 drama film that takes place at Shawshank Prison. A man by the name of Andy Dufresne is sentenced to 2 life sentences after being found guilty for a double murder, and he heads to Shawshank Prison to serve his sentences. Andy eventually makes some friends, including Morgan Freeman's character Red, who helps him adapt to life on the inside and also navigate the corrupt warden and his guards. However, as all the other prisoners are looking to simply survive, Andy looks to change his situation from within. As Andy tries to do so, he goes through some difficult challenges to test his resolve. Alright, so The Shawshank Redemption was another request I was really excited for. I've seen it before, but it has been a long time and I was a little fuzzy on just some of the details that make the story as touching and beloved and meaningful as it is, even 20 plus years later. When I watched it again last night, I was reminded just how excellent it is and why it's considered one of the best movies of all time by many. If you do a quick Google search of, the best movies of all time, top 10, top 100, whatever, you're going to see this movie on pretty much every single list, and there's a reason for that. You're not going to hear an argument from me that it doesn't belong there. I was pretty blown away by this film, pretty much from start to finish. There's a lot of reasons for that ultimately, but I think the first one has to be the sense of atmosphere. I think Shawshank does a great job at making the environment its own character, the way the characters interact with it, how it shapes and molds them and not the other way around. There's a lot of meaningful commentary about the effects that prison has on people when they've lived in it for long periods of time. It takes the characters in this specific story and throws them into an environment that tests what they truly know about themselves. And that's a lot of times where we find true meaning, in the most dire of circumstances that tell us important things about human nature. Shawshank Redemption holds up super well 20 plus years later. There weren't any points in this film where I felt like it was hokey or cheesy or like not aging well, none of that stuff. This is a film that's retained its iconic status for a number of reasons, but most importantly because it's incredibly insightful for one, and just simply well made for two. This is the type of film that you could turn on pretty much any time if you want to experience a story that just resonates with you on a more human level. Because everything about this film speaks to the human condition, what makes us who we are, and how that changes when the environment changes. It speaks to how our environments play a huge role in shaping who we ultimately become. And the way in which the film gets that message across I found just to be incredibly insightful, even now. This is also a movie where you'll likely cry at some point. It's just very emotional. Some of it can be described as simply tragic. There's really no other word for it other than that. It's tragic in a unique kind of way though, because a lot of these men seem to have actually committed the crimes they were found guilty of, so in that sense they deserve the punishment they received. However, it's tragic to watch them become institutionalized, because in an effort to adapt to life on the inside, they end up not knowing anything but that. It shows that if you stay in prison long enough and you survive there long enough, it eventually becomes the only thing that you know. It even shows a couple characters who are granted the opportunity of leaving prison, and then they can't function in the outside world because they just get overwhelmed. They become so institutionalized that they begin to rely on it, to the point where they actually need it. It's a crazy thing to watch because for most of us, we're probably wondering why you'd ever want to go back to prison. But these men that have been institutionalized feel overwhelmed by anything but the prison lifestyle. It's just very, very difficult, even with the terrible crimes some of them have committed, to watch this kind of thing. This movie is also aided by some performances that are awesome from everyone. Unsurprisingly, the two co-leads of sorts are the shining stars here. Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman deliver exceptionally layered performances here that truly got me invested in the heart of this film. These two had such a great on-screen chemistry together, and ultimately delivered characters that were brought to life through meaningful interactions. I found myself rooting for these two despite not knowing for sure whether they actually committed the terrible crimes they'd been accused of. It's amazing how great films like these can in an odd way make you sympathize with people who may have committed terrible atrocities. It can make you feel as if there's redemption to be found for these characters, redemption through acts of kindness that seek to chart a new direction for the course of their lives. I especially loved Morgan Freeman's performance, and this is probably the best I've ever seen him. I haven't seen all of his older movies, honestly, but this one has to be the one that wowed me the most so far. I found his confidence, charisma, and just layered performance to be an absolute bright spot here. From a technical perspective, Shawshank nails it there too. I found the cinematography and music both to be exceptional. They both got nominated for an Oscar for a reason. The music composed by Thomas Newman oftentimes lends itself to that touchingly gritty feeling that's present throughout major parts of the story. The cinematography, on the other hand, it helps establish the sense of atmosphere in every single scene. Roger Deakins has long been a legend because he knows how to establish atmosphere and mood, and he does it through the camera lens. He does it in a way that often inspires a sense of hopelessness in this film, and other times a feeling of hopefulness. The mood can shift from scene to scene and often does that through a combination of music and cinematography that help establish a varying tone. The ending is also worth mentioning. I'll describe it as a very fitting, very satisfying ending in terms of what it offers the characters who come a long way by the end of this story. The journey you take with them comes to a memorable and touching conclusion that will leave you feeling hopeful, something the characters themselves don't even feel for the vast majority of the movie. But overall, The Shawshank Redemption is a remarkable film. It's held up very well for a reason. It's considered one of the best movies of all time for a reason. It's awesome in pretty much every facet. As for the pros-cons, for the pros, I thought The Shawshank Redemption delivered a gritty yet touching story about redemption, 2 excellent leading performances, great cinematography and music, and an awesome ending. As for the cons, nothing bad I can say here. I'm going to give The Shawshank Redemption a 10 out of 10 and definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't already. It's an all-time great for a reason. So have you guys seen The Shawshank Redemption? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite movie of all time. That's such a hard question to answer because of all the genres out there, and there's so many movies to pick from. It's just a really tough question. It always is. For me, it's a tough call, but it's probably Infinity War. It's been out since April, and I just feel like I'm coming back to that movie a lot. I think it's my number 1 for now. Make sure to let me know your number 1 in the comments below. But either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next video.